Good evening, Internet. My name is Charles Mutumbami. Um, I was what can I say? I was so surprised uh, by the comments made by uh, a man of God, that is Mr. Chiwenga, called Reverend Chiwenga, or Pastor Chiwenga, or Bishop Chiwenga. This man of God touched on a very, very sensitive, if I may say, topic, where in one of his services he was castigating, discouraging people from going to the diaspora, especially the UK. He touched on the care people in the UK in particular. He attacked them left, right, center. And I want to say, Mr. Chiwenga, you erred. Reverend Chiwenga, you erred. Pastor Chiwenga, Apostle Chiwenga, you erred. You are commenting on things that you don't know much about. Yes, I am a follower of Mr. Chiwenga, and I used to like some of his sermons. Not everything that Mr. Chiwenga says is bad. I like his stance on the false prophets in Zimbabwe in particular, and the false prophets in this world generally, the false doctrine peddled by different people to doing God's people. The way he exposes the shenanigans of the devil, there is a lot that I agree with him, but on the issue of Zimbabwe and going to the diaspora, especially to the UK, and getting engaged in care work is baffled me. His comments really were out of sync with the reality. This is an area that Reverend Chiwenga does not know about. He doesn't know. I want to believe he is relying on the hearsay. And it's quite unfortunate that in my country, people have gone to an extent of hating or like calling those who go to the diaspora names. But I want to believe it all came about when most people were going outside the country because of the socio-political environment. And I remember some politicians were quick to label people who were going out as saboteurs, as unpatriotic, as people, as sellouts, and everyone who was going abroad was regarded as an opposition member, which is not true. There are a lot of ZANU-PF sympathizers in the diaspora. To an extent that people labeled those who were going to the diaspora, like I said, saboteurs, giving them those names. It took a man of courage, that is Dr. Gideon Gono, who realized that the people in the diaspora can play a very important role in shaping our country, in shaping our economy. And he came up with an idea that is called Homelink when he was the RBZ governor, where he was encouraging people in the diaspora, Zimbabwe in South Africa, Zimbabwe in Europe, in the Americas, to come and invest home through official channels. Because he realized that the diaspora remittances, if channeled through the black market, have little effect in as far as the economy of Zimbabwe was concerned by then. So he created Homelink so that people can channel their resources through official channels so that the country can benefit. And Homelink posted notable successes. And even today, the economy of Zimbabwe is also benefiting from diaspora remittances. People sending money back home, people doing projects back home, people starting businesses back home, be it in the transport sector, in the retail sector, in real estate. A lot of they were creating employment for the benefit of Zimbabweans. And for Pastor Chiwenga to stand up and castigate, ridicule, scold people who are toiling to feed their country and supporting their country to feed their people, their relatives back home, and to support the country economically really, really touched me. And what touched me even more was when you see people clapping and ululating to such misguided comments. I was really baffled. My country still treats people in the diaspora that way. When the country right now is calling for foreign direct investment, Zimbabweans scored their own who go to the diaspora. And at the same time, come out with the policies, the engagement policy. It's a government policy to woo investors into the country to develop Zimbabwe's economy. They want other people to come to the country, but they don't want Zimbabweans to go to other countries. And when Zimbabweans go to the other country or to the diaspora, one thing for sure is they send whatever they get back to their countries and help their families. Some create employment. I have two figures or two people who are doing very, very well in Zimbabwe, paying for offense, transforming rural communities. I've got two examples. With Mr. Ruvete in the Muchakate area in Mogesta down there, who is doing wonders in his community. He's transformed the people in the community. But when he came to the diaspora, he came as a carer, and little did these short-sighted people back home knew that one day Mr. Rivete is going to have a care company that is going to employ people right across this world. Even the Britons are part of his employees. I have Mr. and Miss Chimimba in Sazangwena area in Ngundu. We have transformed the area that they have settled in, holding games, sponsoring social games, helping out in the community, sharing their resources with the old, paying school fees for the orphans in Sazangwena area. They are doing wonders. And for a man of God to stand and say and scold, castigate people who have gone to the diaspora is quite shameful. It's quite shameful. Mr. Chiwenga, I support some of your posts. I believe in some of the things that you say. But the topic that you have touched, you know nothing. That is a very important thing that Zimbabweans should know. We have put so much trust in these people that we call men of God, and they've tended to abuse that. They've tended to abuse that. They tend to believe that they know everything. It's not. Why do people go to the diaspora in the first place? Number one, people go into the diaspora to escape war. So people go to other countries to escape the ravages of war, where they become refugees, war refugees. People go to the diaspora to seek greener pastures. People go to the diaspora to seek greener pastures. That has nothing to do with politics. To seek greener pastures so that they can improve their lives. Not only their lives, but the living conditions of their relatives, of their communities, to help out. People go to the diaspora to escape economic challenges, especially in Zimbabwe. You know, there came a time where you realize that what is happening in Zimbabwe, no one can change it in the short term. So what do people think? People think of relocating elsewhere, where they'll be looking for good living conditions. That's meant that these are the push factors why people go to the diaspora. People go to the diaspora for investment. Like in our case in Zimbabwe, we are calling people to come and invest in our country. We're calling I remember the president going to Davos to woo investors into the country. So when people go to Zimbabwe to invest, those people in their country will say, my brother or Mr. So-and-so is going to Zimbabwe to invest in Zimbabwe. So Zimbabwe become their diaspora. So people can go to different parts of this country for investment. People go to the diaspora to learn. There are quite a number of Zimbabweans in India. There were quite a number of Zimbabweans who were affected by the war in Ukraine. I didn't know that a lot of Zimbabweans were in Ukraine to start, but they were there. There were quite a number of people, Zimbabweans in the United States of America, here in the UK, right across the globe. There are quite a number of students in India, for example. So people go to the diaspora for various reasons. And my Pastor Chiwenga, you touched on a topic that you don't know much about. And I'm sorry to tell you this. Maybe because you are now getting maybe good figures on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook, and even the people coming to your services and clapping at you, and then you think you can touch on every topic. You are lost, man. You don't know. I'm sorry to tell you that sermon that you delivered actually exposes how shallow, Pastor Chiwenga, you are. Where people end up in the UK, when people come to the UK, most Zimbabweans nowadays, when they come to the UK, they come to the UK mostly to look for work, basically. They come to UK mostly to look for work. And in the UK, a sector that employs a lot of Zimbabweans, which is a lot of vacancies, is the healthcare sector, where you find Zimbabweans coming into the UK and get involved as nurses, as doctors, as carers, and that's where most of Zimbabweans come and work. And this is the sector that was opened up, I think, in 2020, where the government of the United Kingdom realized that there was a shortage, and they actually had a policy where they allowed care companies to recruit internationally. And by the way, these care companies are not recruiting only in Zimbabwe. There are a lot of Nigerians here. There are a lot of Ghanaians here. There are a lot of Kenyans here. There are a lot of Indians, Mayama. There are a lot of Pakistan, Bangladesh, Afghanistan here. There are a lot of people. It's not only Zimbabweans in the care sector. That is one thing that I think Pastor Chiwenga does not know much about. There are a lot of nationalities in the UK employed in the care sector. So the care sector actually entails looking after the vulnerable, basically. When you talk about the vulnerable, what are we saying? We're talking about the elderly, people who cannot look after themselves. So you look after them in terms of feeding them, administering medication, even personal care. So when we talk about personal care, we're talking of changing diapers, changing pads, basically. We also have orphans here, or street children. We call them street children in Zimbabwe. Those whose parents have died, and those people who are run away from home, or who run away from abusing parents. So these people are taken up by the government, and we have care companies who actually look after these people. So a care company gets a package on looking after, let's say, 10 children. And then the care company employs carers to take care of those children. That's what you find most of Zimbabweans finding themselves in. We have people who are terminally ill. They can be in homes, they can be in their own homes, or in homes. They can be in hospitals. So we find carers going to look after those people in different parts of the UK. And the care sector in the UK is massive. The care sector in the UK is massive, is big. The government invests a lot of money to look after its own. One thing that I've learned about the UK is they look after their own. They don't allow a situation where mental patients roam around the streets like in Zimbabwe, where you find mental people roaming around, walking about in cities. They look and they take care of their own. That's number one. This is one thing that we should copy from the UK. They take care of their own. There's this, let's say it's a government policy or political talk, where the government says, government or politicians or government ministers or party officials saying, no one should be left behind. That's exactly what the UK government is doing. It doesn't leave one of its own behind. It cares. That's where the care sector is so massive. It attracts a lot of people right across the world. The other thing that Pastor Chiwenga should know is there is care work in Zimbabwe. There is care work in Zimbabwe. There are carers in Zimbabwe. There are old people's homes in Zimbabwe. There are mental hospitals in Zimbabwe. There are clinics in Zimbabwe. There are hospitals in Zimbabwe. Women, those hospitals. Carers, Zimbabweans. So Pastor Chiwenga's talk want us to believe that there's no care in Zimbabwe, or there's no care sector in Zimbabwe. I actually know of my relative who looks after an old British man in Zimbabwe, in one of the homes in Zimbabwe. What she is doing back home is the same as what people here do. So there is care work in Zimbabwe, where Zimbabweans are feeding, not their relatives. They're feeding strangers, like what you said. We are feeding strangers here, these old people, these blah, 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 blah. The most important thing is, like my brother who came over here and he joined the care sector, and he asked me of some tips, what he should do. And one thing that I told him was that the most important thing is to love people. If you don't love these old people here in the UK, obviously you wouldn't go and love people back in Zimbabwe. We are all people. We are all people. I've often seen a lot of Zimbabweans who started here in the UK as carers. Because of experience and exposure, these people have grown to form their own care companies. Those people who are recruiting, not only Zimbabweans, they're recruiting Kenyans, they're recruiting Indians. Remember, a Zimbabwean recruiting Pakistan, recruiting Indians, recruiting Afghanistans, recruiting the Tswanas from Botswana. They're here in the care sector. Recruiting Mozambicans, South Africans. There are South Africans here in the care sector. But Pastor Chiwenga's sermon wants to make us believe that there are only Zimbabweans who are in the care sector in the UK. That's not it. What are the benefits of going to the diaspora? What are the benefits? Let me flag some of the benefits for Pastor Chiwenga to take note. You're offside, Pastor. Able to look after their parents. Those parents who are saying they are being left behind, there are some people who are not able to look after their parents in Zimbabwe. They are there, but they can't buy food for their parents. They can't buy drugs for their parents. They can't improve the living conditions of their parents because of some economic challenges. A lot of my friends here in the UK who are in the care sector have managed to drill boreholes for their parents. Have managed to build houses for their parents. Things that they were only dreaming of when they were in Zimbabwe. I've known some vendors in Masvingo, where I've come from, who got the chance to come to the UK. They were selling bananas on the streets or in the streets. Now they are here. They are talking of drilling of boreholes for their parents. They are talking about sending their parents to private practice in Zimbabwe for health services. They're building their parents' houses. They're able to send their children to good schools back home only because they've come to the UK and are in the care sector. You're able to support vulnerable people back home in Zimbabwe. I have often seen or talked to a lot of carers in the UK who are supporting orphans back home. Some who are building people churches back home. Some who are buying clothes for the vulnerable people back home. I've talked about Mr. and Miss Chimimba in Sazangwena, in Ngundu area. They've transformed the communities that they stay in. Just visit and see what they are doing. whenever they visit their rural area in Sazangwena, they will make sure that they have goodies, they have clothes for the old in their communities. But when they came here, they started as carers. They've got their own business here in Zimbabwe, employing hundreds of people, not only from Zimbabwe, but from different parts of this world. There is Mr. Rivete in Muchakate area in Mogista there, who has transformed the area that he grew up in. He managed, for example, to buy a car for his mom in Zimbabwe and employ a driver to drive his mom to church, to towns. Every that his mom think of going, the car is there, well serviced, a driver is there. Every 3 months, he go visit his rural area, visit his people. And because of the advent of the cell phone, the social media, you're able to discuss and interact with your parents back home through the phones. You can talk to your relatives through the phones. The world has become a global village. The world has become small. And Pastor Chiwenga does not know all of these things. And he thinks he knows. This is one area that he don't know much about. And it's better to stick to what you know best. The diaspora remittances. People in the diaspora. You know, one thing that I want to school Pastor Chiwenga is that people who are in the UK came from Zimbabwe. But to tell you the truth, to most of us here, home is best. That is what you don't know. Home is best. And everyone here think of building a house back home, buying property back home, starting a business back home. And mind you, the investment forums here in the UK, where Zimbabwean businessmen, banks, the CBZ, for example, those banks in Zimbabwe coming here or sending their representatives here to meet people here in the diaspora, showcasing their products. And Pastor Chiwenga doesn't know that. He thinks he knows everything. That's not it, Pastor. And we're talking of diaspora remittances, where you have people in the diaspora sending their money back home to run or to capitalize their businesses, to start businesses, to build or to buy property, build houses. And do you know, Pastor, what that means? It means creating employment to the people of Zimbabwe. Creating employment and boosting business. Pastor Chiwenga, you know nothing about these things. You know absolutely nothing. Let me tell you a humble example, my humble example. When I came to the UK, I was building my house, which was at wall plate level. And I bought my stand in 2014. And not 2014, but around 2016, that's when I bought my stand in Zimbabwe. I struggled to build it. But while I was home, I managed to build my house to wall plate, and I managed to bought 46 14-inch IBR sheets. And when I came here, I managed to roof my house in less than 4 months. The kind of roof that I wanted, that is the raised roof. that I wanted. Not the gable roof, but the raised roof that I wanted. Because I could be able to buy the roofing materials, to buy the timber, which is very much expensive in Zimbabwe. Timber is quite expensive, and I managed to do that when I was here. My daughter was doing medical physics at the University of Zimbabwe, but she liked to be a doctor. She came out with about 13 points, so she was not allowed to get she was not offered a medical place at the University of Zimbabwe, and she was given medical physics. But when I came here, I was now able to send my daughter to Zambia to do medicine, and she's in her 4th year doing medicine in Zambia. Every time she flies home from Lusaka to Harare by the Emirates, the Qatar Airways, Kenya Airways, Ethiopian Airways, or airline. Those are things that I could only dream of in Zimbabwe, but I'm not able to do that. Every time I got a project in Zimbabwe, I employ Zimbabweans to do it. Plastering, finish off the floors, the painting, everything. And my plan is to buy more houses, which means more jobs to Zimbabweans. And the diaspora remittances actually enables the country to have liquidity, balance of payments, forex, stabilizing of our local currency, because there is inflow of forex into the economy. And the diasporas have actually improved the government's coffers. A lot of diasporans here send their money home, and they create that demand in business. There is kufamba kwemari, kutenderera kwemari, because of the diasporans. Those people you are castigating. And know that there's people whose parents are in your church, they are supporting your congregants. You don't know much about that. You touched on an area or topic that you don't know much about, Pastor Chiwenga. So what did diasporans do? They open up businesses, creating employment, improving the lives of the people in Zimbabwe. They're transforming, like I said, the rural communities. I gave you two very important people that I know much about, Mr. Rovete and the Chimimbas. They're doing very well in their areas in Zimbabwe. They're doing very well, helping out, And Pastor Chiwenga, for you to stand up in your congregation or in your church and castigate fellow Zimbabweans who are trying to make an honest living, really leaves a lot to be desired. Now I really wonder if you are really a man of God. I don't think so. I don't think so. I believed you all along, but this time around, I now have questions. For you to believe that care work is only in the UK is absurd. It's nonsense. There's care work in Zimbabwe. It's only that the government provide limited funding to that sector. We have nurse aides in Zimbabwe. We have nurses in Zimbabwe. We have carers in Zimbabwe. We have what care workers in Zimbabwe. We have support workers in Zimbabwe. It's because that the government has not supported these people. I have got one relative of mine who happens to have a child or a daughter who We have some mental challenges, we have some growth challenges, and he is struggling together with his wife to look after the daughter. But here the government supports. The government supports those people. They employ people to look after your daughter while you go out to work there. Here a citizen belongs to the state. Even in my home right now, I start to abuse, or I become abusive to my son, and if the school picks that, the government will take away my son and put it in care, so that he or she will have live in an environment that is not abusive. That is the situation here in the diaspora, especially in these developed countries. And Mr. Chiwenga does not know these things, but he likes to comment on things that he knows nothing about. Shame to hear this coming from someone who purports to be a man of God, castigating fellow human beings, castigating fellow Zimbabweans. We have come here not by choice. A lot of people have come here to the UK not by choice. There is no work in Zimbabwe, basically. So if you have this opportunity, why wait? People grab those opportunities and leave. But one thing for sure is, those people who have left home, they think of investing and going back home. But that's where we belong. Zimbabweans, we belong to Zimbabwe. They build houses in Zimbabwe that one day they will go back and live in those houses. How short-sighted and moronic is Pastor Chiwenga. It's shame to even think that we have such people in Zimbabwe who thinks this way. I know where it started. During the rise of the opposition politics in Zimbabwe, where the ruling elites always think that those people in the diaspora are under them. And this has permeated into the Zimbabwe society to believe that those people who have gone to the diaspora are under Zimbabwe, are saboteurs, are sellouts. That's not it. That's not it, basically. And I've often seen or heard about Zimbabweans who laugh at those people in the UK, for example, in the care sector, for example, just because they are finding it difficult to come to the UK. So what's left for them is to laugh. And yet they have nothing. It's unfortunate that our country is become so polarized to think along that way, thinking that all those people who have gone to the UK are going to into the care sector, and thinking that all those people who are in the UK have no brains. The former president of Zimbabwe used to laugh at the Zimbabweans who have come to the UK. But little did he know, and those people are like, that these people are going to be bosses. They were going to be employers in Zimbabwe. They are building mansions here buying property here in the UK. Some have got 3-4 houses. They're also building houses back home. Little did these people know that these Zimbabweans, they are scolding day in, day out, are going to be bosses. Now they drive Porsche cars in the UK. Porsche cars that most Britons dream of driving. It's driven by a Zimbabwean. They're buying very beautiful houses that most Britons dream of living in or buying. But a Zimbabwean is doing that. That's the spirit of Zimbabweans. Vano muZimbabwe havafi vakasunura sematemba. Vanoshava. Ndokunonzi kushava. Kushava. Kuti muri rarame. Shame on you, called men of God, so-called men of God, Chiwenga. Shame on you.